The morning sun spilled across the porch, painting everything in warm gold. I sat on the edge of my chair, fingers wrapped around a mug that was more for comfort than for coffee. Steam rose in lazy spirals, curling into the air between us, but I barely noticed. My eyes kept finding him, Evan. He leaned against the railing, sleeves rolled up, hands busy with some small work that I didn't need to understand. His movements were slow, careful, precise, like he always had everything under control. And yet, there was something about him that made me want to reach out, touch, connect. My hand itched to close the space between us. Then there was Liam, leaning casually against the corner of the porch, arms folded, easy smile on his lips. He carried a different energy than Evan, brighter, open, inviting, playful in the kind of way that made it hard to look away. His gaze lingered, patient but knowing, as though he could read the little storm of thoughts behind my eyes. The air felt heavy, warm, charged with something unspoken. I had spent months alone, my partner away, telling myself I could handle the quiet. I was wrong. I craved warmth, presence, and the kind of understanding that came from being truly seen. And in that moment, the pull toward these two men felt undeniable. I set my mug down, feeling the wood cool beneath my fingers, and stood. My dress swayed gently as I moved, brushing against my legs. Step by step, I closed the space toward Evan, letting him sense me before I even spoke. His gaze lifted to meet mine, and I caught the flicker of something behind his calm exterior. Curiosity, tension, desire, perhaps all three. "Hard at work?" I asked, voice low, casual, but threaded with warmth. "Just keeping busy," he replied, brushing a hand through his hair. His posture stiffened slightly under my gaze, but his eyes softened. He was watching me. I let my hand drift lightly along his arm. Not flirtation, not testing him, just touch, connection. "You always make things feel steady," I murmured, "like nothing could shake you." Evan's breath caught slightly, a quiet pause, but he didn't pull away. That moment of trust, the willingness to let me in, sent a flutter through my chest. From the corner of my eye, I saw Liam watching. His smile was quiet, knowing, almost teasing, as though he understood exactly what I was doing. I turned slightly, letting my gaze land on him. Unlike Evan, he didn't hold anything back. His warmth and energy radiated, bold but gentle. "Nice view from here," he said, voice soft but teasing, leaning just slightly against the porch railing. I let my fingers brush his arm as I stepped closer, gentle, friendly, lingering enough to let him feel the touch. "Bold," I whispered, meeting his eyes. "I like that." "Why wouldn't I be?" he said with a grin, letting his confidence fill the space between us without pressing. The three of us existed in that suspended moment. Sunlight, warmth, hands brushing, eyes meeting, electric and quiet all at once. Evan steady and anchored, Liam lively and curious, and me, finally alive, finally present, finally letting myself feel. I exhaled, letting the weight of months of loneliness slip from my shoulders. "How about a drink?" I said softly, low enough that only they could hear. "My place." Liam's eyes flicked to my lips, then back to mine. "Thought you'd never ask," he said, warmth in his words, the kind of smile that made your chest feel full. Evan's jaw tightened slightly, posture careful, but I saw the flicker of longing in his eyes. After a brief pause, he set down his tools and moved toward me with quiet determination. That alone made my heart lift. Inside my home, the air was warmer, softer, filled with possibility. I offered tea, sparkling water, and let small gestures, hands brushing, the light touch of fingers, be the conversation between us. Passing glasses, letting palms barely meet, sharing laughter without words. Connection was happening in the spaces between sentences. Liam settled easily onto the couch, stretching out comfortably, like he had always belonged there. Evan lingered, careful, until I offered him a gentle smile, letting him know the space was safe. Slowly, he allowed me to draw him closer, the warmth of his hand brushing against mine. His presence was grounding, steady, patient. I reached for Liam, fingers lightly grazing his arm, and he met me with a soft exhale, an acknowledgement of closeness without demand. It wasn't about urgency or need. It was about simply being together, being felt, being present. The room hummed with quiet intimacy. Evan's restraint softened, his eyes warm, letting himself be part of the moment. Liam's hand stayed gentle, supportive, comforting without pressing. And me? I felt alive, seen, and understood in a way that had been missing for months. Night fell, and the three of us remained wrapped in gentle closeness. Hands brushed, arms touched lightly, shoulders leaned against one another. Laughter was soft, smiles were easy, and silence carried the weight of trust. Every gesture, every glance, every quiet breath was a connection deeper than words. I leaned slightly between them, tracing the line of Evan's jaw, letting my touch linger just long enough to be felt. His hand rested at my side, not possessive, not demanding, just there. My fingers brushed Liam's palm at the same time, sharing warmth, sharing reassurance. Time seemed to slow. The night was ours, not for passion, but for intimacy. The feeling of closeness, understanding, and safety was intoxicating. I realized that the connection I craved was never just physical. It was emotional. It was the comfort of being truly known. When morning came, sunlight spilling across the floor, the warmth of their presence was still with me. Evan's arm rested across my waist. Liam's hand found mine with soft assurance. I stretched, feeling a sense of renewal, a quiet joy I hadn't known for months. We moved together through the morning in easy rhythm. Liam's laughter was light, teasing, yet gentle. Evan's steady presence grounded me, a reminder that some bonds didn't need words. Every touch, every shared glance, every small gesture was a promise of understanding and closeness. Days turned into nights filled with quiet connection. I would sit between them on the couch, my hands brushing over theirs, their warmth radiating into mine. Liam would lean lightly, resting his head against my shoulder. Evan would hold my hand, thumb brushing circles over my palm. Simple touches, unspoken words, and a closeness that filled the void of months spent alone. Sometimes we would sit in silence, feeling the rhythm of breathing, the warmth of shared space. No pressure, no demands, just the quiet intimacy of three people who saw one another. I felt my loneliness dissolve, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. Even ordinary moments carried their own kind of magic. Sharing tea, walking through the park, leaning against one another on quiet evenings. Each brush of hands, each light touch on an arm or shoulder carried meaning. Every small connection reminded me that intimacy was about trust, understanding, and presence. The tension between us never became urgent, never demanded. It simmered softly, a warm current that moved through us. I would catch Evan's glance lingering a second too long, or feel Liam's fingers graze mine while passing a glass. It was a dance of closeness, of connection, of shared warmth that didn't need labels. One evening, I caught both of them watching me, quiet smiles on their faces. I felt bold, alive, and unafraid. I moved slowly, letting my hand brush over Evan's shoulder, then letting my fingers linger in Liam's palm. The small gestures, the tender touches, carried the weight of unspoken words. You are seen, you are wanted, you are safe here, and they responded in kind. Evan's hand found mine, thumb tracing gentle circles. Liam leaned slightly closer, his presence steady, reassuring. It wasn't about desire or lust. It was about intimacy, connection, trust, and the warmth of being together. Months passed, and the closeness deepened. Every moment spent together, whether laughing, talking, or sitting in comfortable silence, carried the intimacy we had built. No rush, no pressure, just the slow, steady growth of connection between three people who finally felt seen. Even in quiet moments, when the world outside seemed heavy and lonely, we had each other. A shared cup of tea, a hand brushing against mine, a gentle shoulder to lean on. It wasn't always words. Often, it was the simple act of being there, fully present, fully connected. By the time the sun began to set one evening, I realized that the loneliness that had once weighed on me for months had lifted entirely. I was seen. I was understood. I was loved. Not in a possessive or urgent way, but in a way that carried depth, warmth, and meaning. And I knew then that connection didn't have to be reckless or fleeting. It could be patient, steady, and infinitely fulfilling. Evan's calm presence, Liam's bright warmth, and my own open heart created something rare, a bond built on trust, understanding, and closeness that would endure. I stretched on the couch, feeling their arms and hands near mine, the quiet warmth of our shared space filling me completely. For the first time in months, I was whole. I was complete. And I knew, deep down, that these connections, gentle, steady, warm, would carry me through whatever came next. Intimacy didn't always have to be spoken. Sometimes it lived in the spaces between hearts, in the light brushing of hands, in the slow, patient leaning toward one another. And in those spaces, I found everything I'd been longing for.